Um, I don't even know how many thousands of franchises are out in the workplace. I, and you had mentioned, the McDonald's and um, those things that we're more familiar with. What is there a basic cost if somebody is looking at joining forces with somebody else? Now, I'm sure McDonald's is $1 million or
Right, right. Yeah. So, it's kind of crazy. I'll tell you what the one that blew me away is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, now granted, you have to go through a whole process to get to this step, but Chick-fil-A is $10,000 to get a franchise. Now, that doesn't mean that you're also, paying for a lot of investments on the building. But Chick-fil-A always owns the land. They're like McDonald's. They always own the land that you're on, is my understanding. So the cost can be relatively lower in certain circumstances. Chick-fil-A is probably one of the ones because the ROI is ridiculous. If you can get in, there's good money. But like for instance, if you look around, and I'll give you just some examples that I've come across, a dog grooming service, a mobile dog grooming service, that's going to cost you like $60,000 to get into. And then you have backside money, and then you're always paying residuals. You're paying a 6% royalty fee off your sales. You're paying a 2.5% for a marketing budget. There's probably a tech fee. So it gets expensive, whereas on a license may be as simple as $5,000, $10,000, and then maybe only like 2 to 3% on royalties. But there's generally not a marketing budget because you're not really allowed to get too crazy with helping licenses with marketing, because then that puts you into the franchise arena. So licensing can make it's substantially less expensive. You're working off the other people to run with it. You're giving them your idea. My best example, I'll give you the hitch corner. So I have all the processes in place for the hitch corner, but I'm not going to make you build a hitch corner with 2 bays and everything else. You may have a muffler shop that already has it. Perfect. The buy-in's fairly low. I take my monthly, percentage off the sales, but you can get in $20,000 and you're running and you don't have any extra investment. It's already there, but I'm helping you to increase, revenue streams by adding trailer hitches, truck accessories, RV accessories, things that they could do, but you'd never buy in at the level I get to. That's kind of what I provide them, as well as we come in and help the training of how to do this install, how to do this gooseneck hitch, fifth wheel hitch. So to answer your question, truly, we could be as little as 5,000 up to, you hit it on the right. I think McDonald's is like a $1 million buy-in, I believe. And you have to show that you have like 2 million in the bank on the backside. Or the ability to get $2 million. So it's all relative as to where you want to go and really how deep you want to get into this whole process.
From my background selling professional photo and video equipment for 50 years, it wasn't really franchising as much as people were becoming dealers for a certain product. Maybe they would have the exclusive for ABC brand, but they were still under certain obligations to represent it, not to go. A big thing in the photo industry, especially when the internet happened, was MAP, or minimum advertised pricing. The internet really disrupted the advertising market, and there's software out there that if somebody would go below MAP by 1 cent, other competitors had the software that automatically went below their price, and you'd get into these bidding wars that disrupted, especially the smaller dealers that did not have that capability of the internet reach. Does licensing work in a similar fashion? Everybody is doing the same thing as far as what they're putting out in public and what they're saying a price and a product is.
It really comes down to how you word your license. It depends on how specific you want to be. I would say the answer in my case is yes. And kind of like you're talking about with your license, you dictate, okay, what's your territory? Do you get the whole city of Denver? Do you get the whole state of Colorado? What are you constrained by pricing? And the answer is generally yes, because with all due respect, you don't want to bastardize the price, right? And if one guy, you hit on the head, if one guy does it, then why would the next one not do it? So you need to have that in place. And also, like you said, okay, do you get exclusivity for everything? Is it non-inclusive? Most licenses are going to be non-exclusive, meaning I'm going to let Mac have Evergreen, and I'm going to let Sonya have Tampa, and Maggie gets Denver. Does that mean there can be some crossover? Absolutely, but you're trying to constrain those areas. But it all comes down to how you've worded your license. If you don't do it correctly, it's gonna crash and burn. If you let it be a free for all with pricing, one, why would I even do the license? Number two is it can't possibly succeed. So you definitely need to, that becomes in that checklist for licensing. What's our price model gonna be? And then you also have to have in there the empowerment and the punishment. If Sonya all of a sudden is now undercutting everybody, what do we do? Do we take it right away from her? Is there a penalty? It's, again, how do you handle it? But that's why we have an agreement, right? You have to be very, very specific on every level to cover every potential option that's out there, truly.
Well, and I heard, horror stories where, people like Samsung and Sony would, try to enforce map pricing, and dealers were coming back and saying, well, this is my price, I'm just tying it in. And they would normally win as long as it wasn't advertised on the internet. If they did,
I mean, you could sell it in house at that price.
Yeah, you could not. I cannot tell you
Correct.
what you're selling something for, but as the manufacturer, I could tell you what you could advertise it for. But if you wanted to give it away when somebody walked into your shop, that's up to you because you're not making a public spectacle of it.
Absolutely. And that's so from on the hitch corner side, I have a lot of manufacturers I deal with directly, and you hit it on the head.